How do you define great work? When you say, that guy or gal, she does a great job, what are you normally calling out? And in your office, that's what we're talking about. How do you define great work? It meets the expectation of the client. I got to tell you, I got this shirt at Oxbow. I was just telling, and in 4 years I've been wearing this shirt. And the performance fabric's unbelievable. It continues to meet my expectations. It's the only kind of shirts I want anymore. It's true in work. Taylor and I worked together on some clients that were hard to please. But it's how they define it, and they defined it so differently. We worked for 7 different Blue Cross Blue Shields, but one of them just didn't want to get in trouble. I don't care how much you bring in more leads or bring in more cheaper cost per policy. Just don't get us called up on the blue carpet upstairs. So let's go as slow as it takes to do better without getting in trouble. We've never had a client like that before. So everybody defines it different. It's a great definition. Luke, somebody else. Okay, so the great attitude, it does lead us to this. What does it take to do great work? Again, when you're thinking about what you got to do, now back to you, we're calling out others now. What do you got to do your best work? That's right. Dan's right. It starts with curiosity. What do they want? Have I really kind of reconsidered or reframed the way they asked the question? And then I know what they said they want, but I think I know what they need, and so maybe I'll do both. Here's what you said you want. Here's what I also understand the mission of the organization. I know what you want, so I'm going to also give you this to need. Now you choose. Okay, this is true for everything you want to get better at. You have to know certain things to do it, and you have to do them. And when you know and do enough, you become that. Think about the struggle. I'm calling any names, but like the first time you managed people. Well, I've read a lot of books. I've read how to do that. Man, that guy wasn't in the book. I'm going to have to learn how to lead that person. And if I know and do things, then I become a manager. And if I know leadership things and do them, I become a leader. But you do become these things. It's okay to say I've become a great soccer player. It's okay to say these things. And think about this, knowing and being and doing. How often does Ja think about dribbling? And read books on dribbling. Hold on, I got a big game tomorrow. Let me just make sure I've got a right pattern of dribbling. I'm not even sure he thinks about how to read defenses anymore. We went to see him back, obviously. But like, he's just reacting. He's just being. Our 4th graders, he's trying to figure that out, where that ball is. And maybe he needs to watch one more YouTube video, how to put that through the leg. So you got to know things, you got to do them, then you become that. It's okay to say you become that. Okay, here's some levels of becoming. If I'm just doing without learning anything, if I haven't tried to figure out what I'm supposed to do, and I just start doing stuff, who has seen this person in the workplace? They're just doing stuff, they have no idea what they're doing. And they're not even trying to learn. We call that, can y'all read it? We call that unconscious incompetence. I'm just doing stuff, I'm just getting it done. Unconscious incompetence. The next thing, if I know and don't do, I'm conscious of what I'm supposed to do, but I'm incompetent in doing it. You train somebody, you've shown them what to do, and they're not doing it. Who's seen that? We see that in the workplace. When somebody yelled out Wednesday morning, that's the church too often. That's people in the church too often. They know what Jesus says, but we're not doing it sometimes. I was on a boat in the middle of the Mediterranean with some of Cannon's buddies. And so there was a new teaching by this professor named Greg Perry as we were headed to Rome. And they're going to love the world like that. How does that affect an elder meeting? So we can get big on doctrine, we can get big on discipline and big on going to places and then not do what we're told. So that's conscious incompetence. Conscious competence is where we start to be. I know everything I receive that I know, I'm learning stuff, I go do. And then who gets better by doing? Some of us only learn that way. I only really learn by making mistakes. But then if I take that mistake in, I say, I'm tired of making that mistake. And then I'm moving and I'm progressing. And then all that leads to unconscious incompetence, being that. So who can think of 3 or 4 things they want to become and just leave it like that, want to become? I want to become the trusted advisor for this expertise I know. Hurston's going to handle retail and you're going to handle the commercial and we're going to be in great shape. You become that, right? You can become. Okay. Knowing plus doing equals being. When I know what I don't know, is a place to get started. And there's a verse for that. In my weaknesses, and if I know not only, maybe I know, but I know I can't do it, like my golf game, then I actually can hand it over to somebody else. And somebody said yesterday, it was great. That's where the teamwork begins. Oh, you're better at that, I'm better at this. This is your working genius, this is mine. And so, and also in faith, I say, well, I'll let Robert do that. I'm not good at it. With bowling, I don't know anybody better than Jeremy Dowdy, the leader of your organization, that can just see a client's problem, and he knows digital marketing so well, and he knows how to provide solutions. So he's unconsciously saying, well, here's what they need, right? I mean, that's a good example of that in your business. Knowing plus doing equals being. So we got to know. So we're going to go over these things all year. We got to know ourselves, and then we know how to deploy our value. When you really know, and that includes emotional intelligence, that includes all these things. We're going to go over that. We're going to have somebody come talk on emotional intelligence and really understanding how other people, how you present yourself. On others, I gotta. That's what Walker's talking about. I got to really know their needs. Dan said I got to be curious. Our industry, we're good at this. I don't think anybody's really bad at this. Mike's excited about his new industry, right? And really digging in like crazy. Now I got to learn to do some of that stuff and make a few mistakes. Disciplines like the 7 habits, but also rhythms of rest. Disciplines of communication, that's one we're going to handle for sure. Am I a disciplined communicator, or did I just get fired up and start typing that email back or that text or what have you? No more email and it's all text probably, right? Servant leadership, do I know why I'm doing it? If I'm doing it for myself, it caves in on itself. And that's true for followers. Look, you don't have to be a believer to come to this. I hope we have more and more people who are not necessarily believers coming. You'll bring friends that don't, and you'll let me know in that case. But even just good work, Harvard will say if you're doing it for yourself, you'll get burned out. Harvard says that. McKinsey says that. I got to know that I'm doing it for the benefit of others. And then strategy. I've got to become strategic at knowing what to deploy when. The article has all this in it. There's a 5-minute video in the article that covers all 7 too. Okay, now spiritually. Because the example of what Jesus said is our premier example, and we don't do it, it's not just a mini-me to go do good at work, but it's first to realize these competencies are not balanced, by the way, and mastering God is not a competence. Real quick, spoiler alert, the competence there is surrendering to His mastery. Who needs to surrender something else? And who surrendered something recently that it brought great joy to your life? I just let go of that. And then sometimes I believe the Apostle Paul surrendered his whole business and then put his tent-making enterprise across Europe to the world. He surrendered it and then did it. So it doesn't mean you got to give it up here, but you may then be able to deploy it better and more freely and more effectively. Okay, know His commands. Read this, Robert. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in His love. You are loved as much as the perfect Father loves the perfect Son. Think about that. Some of you have babies, and you love them all you know how. Even in your mistakes, you love them all you know how. So I had to explain to my 5-year-old one time, well, how come Jesus, don't you love me the most? No, Jesus loves you more, buddy. He goes, why is that? Because He has more capacity for love. And I'm short on capacity, I'm as much as I can. But so He loves you, but perfectly. You're seen, and the way you're going to be is how He sees you. So we're striving sometimes to get to a place where to please God. He's saying, I love you the way you are. Yeah, that was a mistake. Don't do that. Learn from that. Yeah, I dislike sin, but I love you the way you are. I love you. As much as the Father, as much as Jesus' love is how you're loved. So then, if that's true, what is the rest of this saying? Keep my commands. But why? Because it's not performance to earn love. So what's the why of it? It's by doing what he says that we know we're loved. You're going to know you're more loved, just like you know you're a better benefits manager if I do it the way he says to do it. He loves me perfectly, but I'm going to know I'm loved more by doing it his way. It's a joy thing. It's to be in it. You're going to be perfect one day, and it's kind of walk in that now, and the more I do what he commands, the more I know I'm loved. Crazy. And who's tried to do what he said to do and come to the end of yourself? Oh, and your weaknesses I'm made strong. I got you on that. I got you. So there's a responsibility if I proclaim that I am a follower, and at the same time, so you're right, and I think there's a higherness that I'm now walking in his love. I'm walking, and I know it. That's crazy exciting. Isn't it, Daniel? Okay. And look at his commands. Let's look at them. Pick out the one you like the most. It speaks to you. Great leaders, Patrick Lencioni says this, the extraordinary executives say and repeat the same things different ways all the time. They're a communicator and they communicate it in different ways. So you're saying the same thing, you're saying it in different ways. These are commands, though, right? So that's what he says. Don't see that we're going to get away from the don't drink, don't smoke ones. And we're going to see these joy-building commands, which both are true, by the way. But seek first the kingdom of God. Worship me. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love each other as I've loved you. Go and do likewise. Be salt and light. Feed my sheep. Be my witnesses. Go and make disciples. Which one of these kind of stands out to you as something you have learned to enjoy to do? Somebody give a shout out about that. It kind of appeals to you more, so this is the way I do things. But who sees their work as worship? It's the same root word. To work and worship, to what you work on. This is a chance. Who works with people who are helpless and harassed like a sheep without a shepherd? Anybody helpless in your workplace? And your customers come in freaked out? It's the wrong color blue. All right. I don't know if I can get this done. Or you just read an email, man. You're like, sometimes like, well, I think he's pretty much lighting me up. But at the end of the day, I really feel sorry for him. Right? You read that email. First, it's like, Taylor, I'm being personally assaulted. But they're like, ooh, man, I'd rather be me than that person. And then to give joy back. Well, now let's not fire another one back. Okay, that's not love. Did you like that email? Don't fire back. Pick up the phone. Say, oh, by the way, they were just 2 cubes over, or 2 offices over. I think I'm going to go sit in there. Well, that's what I'd want. Let's just break this down. So, part of what we're saying in all of this, okay, is a great commission. Who believes that's a command of Jesus? It's the culminating one at the bottom. One of the things we do maybe is that command called the Great Commission, it wasn't in our Bibles that way until the 70s. It is still an ultimate command. It is still I would call it still a culminating command. But sometimes maybe we take it too high and then we don't just love the person right in front of us. Because I have no chance to make a disciple if I hadn't already treated them with dignity, Leo, right? If I hadn't already said, whew, that's the craziest customer I've had today. That coworker is in trouble. So I'm going to be patient and love him for a minute. So we love your neighbors yourself and do likewise and be salt and light, as Michael's saying. I got to be walking around, and then I can see, well, wait a minute, do people at least know, am I salt and light enough that people might come to me when they have a sick relative, when they're in trouble, to pray for them? Would they come to me when they're really struggling with something? Do they know what I am? Would they come to me? And then I can invite them. So all this is culminating. We're saying the better you do your work, okay, excellent work, and we're going to learn to get better at our core part of our job. We're going to learn to get better at the job, because if we're excellent at our work, we can turn it to blessing others, and that will lead to witnessing. It will. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and does not do it, it is sin for them. If I know this is the command and I don't do it, I'm not living my best life. That's the way to say it. You can say it's sin, you can be guilt tripped. Like I said, there's none of this guilt stuff next week, so it won't even be a verse this harsh. So remember it now. These are the commands. Not just don't cheat with the neighbor's spouse. No, go and make disciples. How am I going to cheat with the neighbor's spouse if I'm loving them like I love myself? How am I going to look at the wrong stuff on the internet if I'm a witness in salt and light and I know who I am and I can't worship God and look at the wrong stuff or desire the wrong things actually because I've got them in the right place. I'm going, whew. Wow, you're amazing, God. Okay, we're going to keep going. Read this, Nate. And if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory. Tell yourself that all day. I'm a child of God. What does it come with? You are a what? Children and heirs with Christ. Every single thing Christ is going to receive, you're going to receive. It's yours. Why am I acting like I got to have this today? This is great Yeti material. I got to have it. Everything's going to be mine. Everything. And so everything, there is no to a request that's good. It might be not yet. You don't need it yet. You're an heir. You're going to receive it all. Your brother is Jesus. You're going to receive all things. And so my striving to gotta have it now, that's where I'm not understanding that the most significant things that I've received in my life had nothing to do with what I did. I'm an heir. The promise is unbelievable in this. What's the rest of it? What's it saying? Don't be surprised if you suffer. But who's, again, gotten to the end of themselves or had something really hard go on, relied on Jesus, and then understood what he went through? Who's been talked about unfairly? A customer complaint that wasn't true. Well then, he was perfect. He received all that stuff all the time. You can identify with what he went through then. The stuff that I did wrong, Ken, and I just have to say I did that wrong. But the stuff that I did right and somebody's persecuting me for, I can get to know him a little better, or I can start to count on him to do it. When I get to a great book, Emotional Healthy Spirituality, say you can't be emotionally mature without being spiritually mature, and you can't be spiritually mature without being emotionally mature. I got to get through it. I got to get to the point where I can't do it anymore, rely on him, and then I can reset everything. And we're stealing that a little bit when we say we can grow professionally and spiritually simultaneously.